My very dear friend Joe LaVorgna, who was the chief economist at the White House National Economic Council. I was the director in those days. Joe's now the chief economist at SMBC Nikko Securities. So, Joe, thanks for giving us Saturday. We appreciate it. I just, I didn't like it at the beginning, the jumbo rate cut. Now I think he's in a terrible mess. He's not going to be able to follow through with rate cuts. He might even have to raise rates before this saga is over.
Larry, because I send you my work, I thought the Fed was going to go 50 in September, way back in August, and was telling people that for a variety of reasons. And perhaps it is indeed political. I don't know. But it seemed like, given the verbiage and their pivot they made sometime around the summer, they were going to cut 50. And then I thought also that they very well would skip November because the data don't move in a straight line. I am surprised that the inflation numbers are as poor as they've been, and last 2 months have not been good. And I think your point is well taken in terms of the risks to the outlook. The economy hasn't slowed as much as I would have guessed. The labor market is weakening, but it's not horrible. And that's in large part because, as you know, you've got a tremendous amount of government employment, a lot of healthcare employment, and we're running deficits near 7% of GDP with unemployment that's historically low. So it's not slowing for a certain set of reasons, but the Fed's in a pickle, Larry, no question about it.
I mean, for all that that's a good roundup. I mean, you're brilliant at that. I mean, that capsulizes it. But my point is, you're sitting there in September. I mean, yes, he was signaling in August and Jackson Hole. I understand that, but you're running close to full employment. All right, there may be some softening, but we're not in a recession yet. I mean, Kevin Hassett said on the TV show yesterday that before the September numbers came out, it looked like the August numbers and the July numbers were recession numbers. I just don't agree with that. You got a 4 handle on unemployment. Then the other thing, Joe, look, the rate of inflation has come down, no question, from 9-something to about, I think, 2.4 right now in the CPI release this week. But you know what, Joe? 2.4 is higher than 2. And the core rate of inflation with the CPI was over 3. So over 3 is not 2, and 2.4 is not 2. And here's my last point. Why not let the inflation rate for a while come in under target? Since people have suffered high prices for 3.5 years, the fact that the last few months have simmered down, that doesn't help them, right? You're still 20% ahead cumulatively. And God knows what, electricity is up 40, and you know the list as well as anybody. So I'm just saying, why not under target? You don't need jumbo rate cuts. Why don't you try to help the middle class and let some of these prices start falling?
Larry, is it okay if I say I agree with Kevin? I love Kevin. Him and I are probably on the same page with the economy, so maybe it's 2-on-1 against Mr. Kudlow. But,
right.
but your point on the inflation rate is important because households, consumers think in terms of levels. They don't think in terms of the growth rate.
Right.
And you've got roughly, you mentioned inflation's up, I'm going to guess somewhere around 22, 23% cumulatively over the last 3.5 years. And for essentials like food and housing, gas, heat and cool your home, it's up closer to 25%. But having said all that, Larry, the Fed's made many, many mistakes, and one of which is just their inability to forecast. So if you go back last December, the Fed pivoted. It said in March it was going to cut 3 times at the March meeting. We get to the June meeting. They only reduced it to 1 cut. And then by July, members were talking about cutting, and they added then 4 cuts in September. So between March and September, they had 3 cuts down to 1 cut, back to 4 cuts. So it shows you how unable they are to forecast things. We need a lot more humility on the Fed, probably a lot less talking, and perhaps a little bit less discretion, Larry, and a little bit more. We want to be data dependent. Let's go with perhaps a more rules-based approach. That might work better because now it's not working well.
I love the rules-based approach. You're 100% right. John Taylor pioneered that. He's a longtime friend, brilliant, brilliant man. I'm just saying, if you've suffered for 3 years of big inflation, 20% cumulatively, and worse for various categories, such as gasoline, electricity. You ought to give people some relief. The Fed should target the middle class sometimes. But I love you, Joe LaVorgna, and I also love Kevin Hassett. You're both very, very brilliant. Thanks for coming on.